Guys, welcome back to the Ryan Nile Show. Today I'm joined by Alex Reeds, who is a fellow podcaster. He's a journalist and a writer and many other things, but all in all he's a good human. And we met on the Dreamer's Disease podcast, which is hosted by Alex Manzi. We had an amazing conversation, really open flowing conversation, and we realised that we're quite alike and we've got similar missions.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to get into that a bit today. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. But you know what they say, where one or more Alexes get into a space, great things are created. But yeah, no, thank you for having me here.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. So let's just talk about how we're sitting
Yes.
at the moment.
Okay, so I'm cross-legged, like a child.
Like a child, yeah.
In this armchair. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, look, when I just popped to the toilet and come back, and I was like, oh, you got no shoes on, and I was like, do you know what? I'm taking my shoes off too, because it feels like we're at home and it's a bit more comfortable.
It's playtime.
Yeah. You was talking about being in child's poses.
Yeah. So I'm kind of big on making sure that your body is being utilized to the best possible way that it should be used. And I found that before, when everybody's trying to make their January goals or their New Year goals, and I wasn't moving my body, I wasn't using my body in the way that I wanted to. And I've always been quite active. I've always been so I do have those bursts of fitness kind of moments and stuff. But I just came to a realization at some point last year was that I wanted to keep moving my body. My body needs to keep moving and and challenging itself. Which is why I kind of invest in yoga, which is why I do quite a bit of exercise early in the morning so that my body can wake up and get itself out of the rut that it's been in for the 6 hours, 7 hours that we've been sleeping. And I like doing things like sitting on the floor and stretching and sitting in chairs like this or sitting in chairs like that unconventional. I mean, one time my sister came back from uni and she was like, oh, why are you sitting like that in a chair? So I was kind of upside down, lying, my legs were over the back of it, and I was just lying backwards. I was just on my phone. I was like, why not? You know what I mean? Not forever, but
apparently that's good for you though. Yeah. It's called inversion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. My wife knows the science behind it, but it's supposed to be good for you because of the blood flow and stuff. Because we don't often get into those positions.
Exactly. It's just I just felt, let me just move myself to a position that is just different.
Yeah.
And gravity obviously is pulling you down, and and if you kind of distort yourself a little bit, it kind of offsets certain things. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what the science is behind it. I'm just
going. It feels good.
Yeah. I just go with how I feel, and that's kind of been my ministry lately.
Brilliant. Do you reckon that's come out because you are, you're writing, you're podcasting? A lot of it is very staid, you're. Yeah, just at home and or at the office working.
Yeah, when I used to work in newsroom, I hated sitting down so long, and I think that there's something really unnatural about the way that we integrate or interact with life as kind of, I want to say millennials, but then also just as humans nowadays in this time of, when people are thinking about wellness and thinking about their bodies and things like that. But the way we interact with life is a bit odd to me sometimes. Who sits down in a weird right angle position for 8 hours a day?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I just feel and expects that just to be normal, and then we have this really weird back issue. Pandemic, they want to call it, across the country, because people aren't sitting in a posture that helps them, or they're not standing up often enough.
That's right,
walking often enough, and certain joints, I'm from the school of, if you don't use it, you lose it, and parts of your body, certain joints, if they're not exercised, they get rusty.
It's true,
You know what I mean? Some people have compared your body to a car. You need regular MOTs, regular checkups. Keep it moving.
Yeah. Keep
So,
it well oiled.
Keep your body oiled, you know what I'm saying?
Put the right fuel in.
Your cod level oil, have your good food, drink water, do all that things. But at the same time, it's trying to keep active and trying to make sure that the body is being pushed to the extent that it needs to be pushed to.
Yeah.
And
this is especially
not overexertion, but
sorry, I was going to say this is especially important where people are moving more into a freelance running their own business, it you have to take care of yourself with things like that, especially if you've gone from working for a corporation and
Yeah.
then you go work for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you have to be mindful of these things.
Absolutely. I had the smartwatch. I had a smartwatch, and it used to tell me to get up every 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Stand up. And just like stand up now. I
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
stand up for like, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever, and then sit back down again. And it's very weird because then you don't realize how long you've been sitting down for until the watch tells you
That's right.
to stand up. And it's I find it weird
Yeah.
that you have to have something to sit there and tell you to stand
It's
up.
mad,
And
isn't
you
it?
shouldn't be able to feel like I want to stand up. You know what I mean?
Well, seats were made for resting, really. We should
Seats-
be standing up more anyway.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. No, if I was to have an office, I don't think there would be any chairs, to be honest.
That's a good idea.
I just chairs to sit down and do the work on, unless you've got an impediment or injury,
Right,
etc.
right.
There will be conditions. But I think that, I like that these new wave offices have like standing tables and you can kind of like elevate them up a bit.
Yeah,
and put
stand-up
them down,
desks, yeah.
stand up desks, sorry.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. I love to see it. I love to see it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's why we're sitting like this. That's a very long-winded answer.
No, that's
Yeah.
good though. I think that's going to help people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your podcasts and the
podcast.
evolution of that, because you have a podcast called Mostly Lit.
Yeah, I had. So it's
yeah.
the Mostly Lit ended in 2019. Well, it's been put on a hiatus.
Yeah.
That was an amazing journey in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So for the people that don't know, what is Mostly Lit?
Oh yeah, so Mostly Lit is a literature and pop culture podcast, and we just got on there. We had a book that we discussed like once a week, and we chose this book and we just like chopped it up about this
Amazing.
book. And then there are elements of the podcast where we spoke about like film and TV and whatnot. And it was a great time. It was a great time. So we were doing that from 2016 to October 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like a
Big journey.
day in, day out, not day in, day out, week in, week out.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. It was a great
It's three
time.
hosts, right?
Yeah, it's three hosts. Yeah. And we were doing just some amazing stuff. Like we interviewed some great authors. We were on some stages. It was good. And especially at a time when podcasts in the UK were like becoming like a lot more independent. There was a lot
Yes.
more, like, it was like a weird like peak of just like loads of independent podcasts that was happening. And yeah, they when I look back on those times, I feel like it was really, we had some amazing summers, we had some amazing winters as well. In the early stages of doing any project, like you don't realize how much time and effort you put into it and stuff, and the stamina that you have to have to go with it. Like all the stuff that we had to do, like recording stuff and then losing recordings. Like corrupt files, coming back the next day to record it again, but we have to record it again with the same energy, or else, like, what is the show? People expecting it to be out on a certain day, and then you want to make sure it comes out on that day.
The fact that you've got three hosts and you have to abide by that
we have to
schedule
manage that as well. It was a time. And then I think 2018, October 2018, I started what my podcast, like Time to Talk now, was called What Matters with Alex Reeds. And I went on to create that, and then that changed in a year later to Time to Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through that journey of obviously having, multiple hosts, and then kind of going out on your own.
Scary.
Yeah, especially with obviously you had the experience from Mostly Lit and doing the whole scheduling thing, and when you do go out on your own, because it's similar story, right?
Yeah.
Then you're thinking, oh, wow. So everything I've just done, I've got to do on my own now. How did that come up for you?
It was like I do think that these things are like everything that you do in life is a primer to the next thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Everything you do in life is you're being trained to do something like next. So all the stuff I learned on Mostly Lit, all the time that you put into it, or what was required from a podcaster, the commitment level, the discipline level. It just kind of, and while a lot of these things were innate in me, just kind of making sure that things were done on time and done properly, and wanted to make sure that they were done properly, making mistakes and realizing that that's not how I want to edit it, or that's not how
Right.
it should sound, or
Right.
that's not, or this isn't the transition I want to use in this. That's a technical side,
Right.
but also how I speak on a podcast,
Yeah.
the kind of like the interaction I have on the podcast and stuff, all that stuff kind of did transfer into me when I started my one. And the only thing that became weird about it was the fact that it was me by myself, and I'm like, I have no one to bounce off
Yeah.
of. Obviously, I have my guests when I speak to the people one on one, like what we're doing now. But I think when I recorded the first episode, it was just me speaking for like 2 to 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's
And I was
weird, right?
like, I'm out here talking to myself. Why? No one's kind of like steering or directing the conversation. It takes a lot more mindfulness to kind of think to yourself, all right, how am I going to structure this episode, or am I just going to freewheel it, or what? Like, you know what I mean? And I think we pick up these techniques as we go because we find our own individual styles when we do things.
Yes.
But in the initial phases, I was like, I'm sitting in a room talking to myself, but talking to people. And I find that the strangest thing. But
It's funny when you catch yourself. I mean, the good thing about podcasts is they're not live. So, the moments that you do catch yourself,
Yeah.
and it will steer your train of thought. I mean, if people heard the raw files, there would be a lot of silence on there because you're just trying to think of what to say.
Yeah.
It is difficult.
Yeah. And like, and then obviously you've got to sit back and listen back to yourself speaking about something that you've just spoken about. So you're then talking to yourself again, and and it's just a very weird situation. But but I love the creative process of doing the podcast.
It is. It's
and,
amazing.
Yeah, and I love the space. It's just it's how I think. It's like how I kind of clear my mind to get my point across, get my ideas down, and so I've not found out, but I've seen on the Myers-Briggs test I'm an ENFP, which kind of makes me my thinking is extroverted. So when I have ideas, I have to speak them out, and I'll probably come to the conclusion to myself.
Right.
But then there's like the last 10-15% I have to be like, oh, so X, Y, and Z. And then like, I'm a very much an ideas person and a collaborator when it comes to that element of me.
Interesting.
So while I'm intuitive, I have to then speak it out, but then for it to become, for the idea to fully form.
Interesting.
So when I'm sitting there on my, with my Yeti mic, doing my notes to self that comes out on Fridays, I just I've written down the ideas. I've kind of like structured the episode how I want it, the points I want to talk about. I've got the ideas clearly, but it isn't until I start speaking out that everything starts to fall in. I can throw in what I want to throw in and probably make it a bit different to what's written on that, So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whereas I know that some people need to have it like a strict script, or can kind of they need that structure there. So
yeah. Well, I think it's important to find what works for you.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Scripts don't work for me. Well, knowing what I'm going to say kind of works, but reading word for word is just
yeah. Reading word for word is tricky because then it's this pressure of I've got to say every single word on this page.
Exactly. I don't know how people do it, like teleprompters and stuff.
Yeah.
Have you had to do that before?
Teleprompter.
Yeah.
No, but I downloaded this teleprompter app on my phone just to see if that could help with doing YouTube or other things. It doesn't work for me.
No.
It doesn't work for me. So
yeah,
I tried. It's the best I could say.
But that's a good lesson though.
Yeah.
What works for everyone doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
You got to find your own way for sure. So notes to self, which is you're talking to yourself. Part of your podcast.
Yeah.
I listened to your latest one about grief.
Yeah.
And it was really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful. And I know that was the kind of first one that you shared, and like you said, it's very vulnerable. But that's why we resonate, because it's all about just putting yourself out there. And yeah, I mean, what was kind of going through your mind?
Um,
Because sharing that part as well with grief is quite exposing, isn't it?
yeah, as in, why did I start the notes to self, or why
Well, no,
did I?
like why? Not why. What? How did you feel doing it?
Oh, doing it.
Is what I mean.
I felt like in that particular episode, it was part of the process for grieving my
It's
grandmother.
just like
Yeah,
catharsis.
yeah, it was that catharsis. It was like I needed to do that in order for me to then kind of make it an additional experience for that level of loss that I'd had. Um, but I felt I did feel free. Yeah, I felt like what I had to say needed to be said, and a lot of people, when they come to grief, it's something that not many people really talk about. In a
Yeah, you're
sense,
right. Yeah.
we all have experienced it on some level, or we will experience it on some level if we haven't already. And I remember when my grandpa passed, I googled like how to grieve a grandparent, because while I've lost grandparents before, I was very young. So I was 6 when I lost my first grandmother. I was 14 when I lost my first grandfather. And, being the age I am now, it was like, it was a different experience as an adult, and obviously, and as a denizen of the internet. There's like
Yeah.
loads of different resources out there for me to look at. Whereas 14, I wasn't really, I think the time in which it was like, what, 2005, like I wasn't googling like how to grieve. What I mean,
No.
it was something that happened that was just in the family. But this, it was like, I know that somebody out there had experienced this as well, and that's my kind of service to the people that listen, or people that are going through particular things,
For
that is,
sure.
as well. Like, I would have loved to find like something like that. And there probably is something out there that does that, but for my contribution to that conversation, decided that that would be good for whoever's listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you had any people reach out to say
Yeah,
it's affected them
yeah.
in
There's
a
something
way?
like that. Yeah, they really. And the thing about I think the really weird about podcasts, they kind of like there will be a point where people publicly um, comment on what you've said on a podcast, but
Yeah.
in an early stage, they tend to DM you, or
Correct. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
tend to throw messages at you, and yeah, I've had very interesting responses to it. They really liked the way that I came across, the pacing, what I said, how I said it, and stuff, and like how necessary it was for them to hear it at that time, and that's the best I could possibly ask for.
Yeah.
To be
Because we all
honest.
have the self-critic, especially when you're sharing something that's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it's good to hear that, when something isn't even, it wasn't scripted, you're just telling your feelings, right? And it's funny that that stuff resonates the most because it's just human, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was nervous about putting something so taboo, in a sense, out there, because like not many people want to. Oh, I don't want to hear about grief. I
Of
don't want to.
course.
It's just these things that people avoid. But at the same time, I was like, it would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't put this one out first. It was one of the main reasons I post my notes to self on my Instagram page. It it just made sense for
Yeah.
me to do that. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. That's good. It's really good. And
yeah,
you're just talk to me and talk to the audience
yeah.
just a bit about your podcast. Obviously, it's
Yeah. Oh
evolved
yeah.
from
What matters? So
What
now, yeah,
Matters.
it's time to talk with Alex Reeds. Um, and like over time, I had quite a bit of a think about what I wanted to bring to the space, and why. And my idea was that I wanted just to create a space for people to talk about things. And when I looked at the content that was on What Matters, and I looked at the reason, and when you write these plans out, like back in the day, and
Yeah.
then you start a project, and it somehow veers away from the actual project's
Always.
actual objective. And then I found all my old notes about What Matters, and kind of like what I wanted it to be, and
All
why I
right.
wanted it to look like that. And it was like it's veered away too much from what I wanted it to be. And yeah, so I went back to the drawing board, thought to myself, okay, like I'm in a new chapter of things. I want to kind of rename the podcast. I want to create a space for people to talk about matters that they like or the issues that they like that they want to talk about, and just give people that time. So then I was like, okay. Then I was writing as well. So I was writing a few essays just to myself, and then I had a list of things, and then Time to Talk came up. I was like, Time to Talk. That could be something that I could be interested.
Yeah.
So I just pitched it to a few people, and then they were like, "Yeah, this sounds great. Let's go with that."
Amazing.
And we went with that. And Time to Talk was born out of What Matters. And yeah, and I've just gone from there onwards. And like, we talk about vulnerability. We talk about things that that we don't always get a chance to talk about.
Yeah.
And or whether that be fatherhood, whether that be marriage, whether that be relationships, whether that be friendships, whether that be work, in like mental health, around all of those subject areas, spirituality, issues of belonging, connection, all of those different things. And I just leave it up to my guests to figure out what they want to talk about and why. And I speak to them about those things, and I take into consideration what they want to speak about. And I think it's and it's been good for me as well. I learned so much from them, and so many lessons from them. And the platform is about the guests I bring on. You know what I mean? Like, they come on and they share their story. I just literally partake in them telling it.
But what's amazing about that is that it's gone back to its original intention. Because I know all too well how things can, you come up with an idea and it's coming from a pure place. Then you go to do it, and then other ideas come up or other suggestions come up, and for sake of momentum, sometimes you just go with it.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, where are we? What's happening here? This isn't what we set out to do.
Absolutely.
Or what I set out to do. And then you have to bring it back to the soul, because sometimes then you get to a point where it's like, well, what are we doing this for? Like you said, with podcasts, they're independent, so it's a lot of work that goes into it. So if a lot of work's going into it, it needs to be something that's really like firing me up and
Absolutely.
really firing up my soul.
Absolutely.
But also other people, like guests as well. And then because ultimately that translates to the audience, and it really brings back to what value do I want to add?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Both what do I want to add, but also what we're going to get from it, because it really has to light you up, doesn't it?
Yeah, you do. And like, for me, it was a thing where, like, I wasn't talking. I mean, there was a point in time where I wasn't talking enough. And I wasn't
on the episodes.
No, not on the episodes. Just
in general.
Just in general. Like, I was so inhibited. I was so
I see.
insecure about things. And like, obviously, we all have these insecurities. We have these minor things that minor. We all have these things that that kind of make us a bit
Closed off,
a bit introverted, a bit like hiding away from ourselves, sort of thing. We all have those elements in us, but I felt like I wasn't speaking about those problems or issues I had, or I wasn't speaking enough about anything in general. Like, I was just literally like to myself, as it's like, if I don't speak about it, I'll be safe. I'll be okay. Like, I'll deal with it myself. You know what I mean? And then it wasn't until I sat down and as I said, like, extroverted thinking, and then started talking to people and like realizing, right, oh, you're going through that as well. Oh, okay. So I'm not alone in this. I'm not alone in the world, and all of this stuff. And it wasn't until I was doing that I just realized, like, me creating a space for myself to talk was brilliant. Now, what about people who want to come on and speak about what they want to talk about? Because the whole point of a podcast is to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing. And it's a human thing, right? So we all go through that same thing where you do just kind of like isolate, as much as like yourself and the work that you do, and like Alex Manzi and myself, like, you're constantly pushing yourself into these spaces where you're learning and you're trying to be more self-aware.
Absolutely.
The human instinct, or the way that we've coped so far, is to retreat. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, especially when you do know the solutions.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know best.
Yeah.
All right,
I find that more in the British scene of things, it's very much like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I don't want to put myself a bit forward in that regard. I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. And yeah, I find that really weird. If I hate doing the comparisons, but if I look at contemporaries in the States, like they really put themselves out there, like they are their biggest PRs.
They are.
You know what I mean? I just find it really like this British
definitely a British
reserve,
thing.
this British reservedness, a bit weird. But
It
so I'm
is.
trying to put myself out there a lot more, and
Feels weird, though.
it's so difficult. Like people are like, oh, you know, you need to promote yourself more. You need to do all this stuff, and I'm like, A, like I'd rather somebody else do it for me. B, it's just like, okay, cool, but I get stuck in this kind of cycle in my mind. That's like, all right, how do I do that then? What's the best way for me to do it? Is there a strategy? Is there a strategia? Is there a what's the word? Procedure to do it? And you know, and now I just came to the point where it's like, just share what you want and just share. Just,
Exactly.
Like, and just put yourself in the space where you can, you know, put your stuff out there as much as you
Exactly. That kind of relates to what we were saying about like scheduling. Like your podcast comes out on a
Tuesday and a
Tuesday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes a Wednesday. That's like mine's on a Sunday, but sometimes on a Tuesday. Like it just depends. Like it's difficult to keep on schedule, but it's better to be consistent. I believe with your mission. Like, I always try and bring it back to, okay, but what's my mission here? Is my mission here to release an episode every week?
Absolutely.
Or is my mission here to help people be kinder to themselves and others?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the latter. So I'm not going to just put out an episode for no reason, you know. So, and you was talking about releasing the shackles of that and how freeing that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes once you kind of like take control of your own schedule and your own kind of procedure, it just becomes easier. And you just say, look, it's gonna come out tomorrow instead of today. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just how it's gonna have to be. And I think the nature of the kind of podcasts we do, people don't always like go straight to them like each week. Sometimes,
No, it's exactly.
Sometimes it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna listen to it on this day, and then there's another one on top of that. And then people kind of like, the nature of podcasts is that they actually, people stop them up sometimes and listen to them all in one go, or they listen to them at particular times, or you know what I mean. So it's just bank the content and put the content out as and when you can, and let's kind of relieve the pressure of like feeling like, oh, it needs to come out on this day. If it doesn't, like my whole world's gonna come crashing down. It's
Exactly.
fine.
It is fine. It is fine.
You will make
And like
it.
we was talking about off camera as well, it's like releasing a podcast is one thing.
Yeah.
But it's like promoting the podcast is another thing.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
you know, you've got so much content, Twitter, Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram, etc. And it just doesn't stop. So releasing the shackles and just being free in your expression is very freeing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brings you back to your mission.
It does. How did you find your mission? What was it? What was that? Where is it?
Trial and error.
I think that's probably
Trial and error. And I could still be in that phase of trial and error.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was about owning the tools and the gifts that I've been given. And so, for context, I've spent all of my time in music, pretty much, in my career. So as a music producer, as a songwriter, and that does come naturally to me. However, what I realize is I'm a creator. So I've written for TV. I've had an internet startup. I've had a music career. Have a music career. Create podcasts. One of my gifts is to take something from here and put it out
into
in
the world. Yeah.
That's something that I'm good at.
Yeah.
However, that's something that I have to actively do. That's something like separate. Something that's always been innate is this, having these kind of conversations, and I just had to lean into that. You know, the reason I started to lean into it more is, as a music producer, you're kind of relying on others to kind of further your career, because it's artists. So you're writing songs, you're producing songs for artists, and you could do that for years and not one song come out.
Yeah.
You know, so no one knows who you are. And I did have songs come out and stuff, but it just got a bit, again, bringing it back to, why am I doing this? Like, I want people to, the reason I started making music is so my boys could come over and be like, oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
You know? And then that moment of me making a beat, and then half an hour later I'll get that fulfillment, then turns into 2 years, 3 years, you know? So then it wasn't getting the fulfillment. So, love podcasts.
Yeah.
Got, again, like you're saying about being primed for the
Yeah.
next thing.
Yeah.
I'm fluent in audio production.
Yeah.
So creating podcasts was like that to me. And it's like, oh, wow. So I can actually have a conversation for an hour, and in another hour, I can release that conversation
Yeah.
because I can do it so quickly.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing to me.
Yeah.
And through doing that, and through similar, because you have Mostly Lit and I have For the Creators. So there's creative conversations with
Yeah.
creative types. But what I was finding is, with the way I interview, it did lean more into, okay, you're a creative, but I was connecting to you as a human.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, that's where I need to go with
Yeah.
this, you know, because that's actually the part that I enjoy most, when I'm just in the zone with a guest, with another fellow human,
Yeah.
and that's where it's at for me, you know. And I knew it when I sat down. Actually, when I sat down and did my very first interview with Will Light. He's a producer and he builds studios and stuff. And I was like, I could do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I could sit here and have these conversations for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. And so just through doing that, and again trial and error, and just realize, okay, so what am I doing this for? Bringing it back. What am I doing this for? What do I want to do? And it was to, you know, my experience of being a man in London, and kind of being a, as my best friend would say, an alternative street cat. You know, I can relate to
Yeah.
to people of all types. But leaning into, you know, like growing up as a teenager in London, you're either a sweet boy
Yeah.
or a bad man.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And I was always deemed the sweet boy.
Yeah.
That was never cool. But, you know, as we grow older,
Yeah.
people try to lean more towards being what that stereotype was. And all it was being self-aware and, you know, sensitive and having empathy for others, you know. And it turns out that's what we need to do in the world, especially for men.
Yeah.
So, last year kind of took ownership of that mission and thought, no, right, I need to put my name on the show. And that way I can't hand it off to anyone.
Exactly.
I can't hand this mission to anyone else.
Nope.
Exactly,
Nope.
right? Same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And
It's public accountability.
public accountability.
Public accountability,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I committed to, you know, to having these conversations and to being vulnerable and,
Yeah.
you know, to explore different parts of myself. So I do that via the vlog and with conversations like this. And just like going back with that whole sweet boy, bad man thing, like, I haven't spoken about that before, you know, but this is something that we grew up with, especially in like early 2000s, 90s.
Yeah. The thing is, it's interesting what you say about trying to, like, you know, want the world to be kinder and people to be kinder and stuff. And then I think that's a beautiful mission to have, because ultimately I don't think it's too big an ask. I don't think it's too big an ask to want people to be kinder to one another, or to be kinder to themselves, or to be more compassionate.
It's in
to
the name.
themselves. Yeah.
What are we?
What do you mean?
We're mankind.
Oh yeah, we're mankind. Yeah, we're
But are
mankind.
we?
Yeah.
But
But
are
are
we?
we? Are we kind? Are we kind to ourselves? And that is a huge thing that I think that we're losing in, you know, just as I said, being humans today and stuff. And, you know, you have these small pockets of people who are endeavoring to kind of like bring compassion back and do all of these things, and unfortunately, it's a very small pocket.
Yeah.
Because we don't see that every day, especially in London, when somebody is like, you know, you get off the central line and somebody bounces you, and you're just like, why are you in my face? And,
Everyone's
you know,
on
like,
edge.
You know, so many times I've had to, like, today, I'm trying to send a voice note, and I'm hearing an opera singer on the tunnel, on the underground. in my head, I'm thinking, why are you singing? And I'm trying to do my voice note. But then also, like, I just had to stop doing the voice note and then, like, kind of like walk past her and just be like, okay, cool. Like,
Accept.
you're doing your thing. I can do my thing in a minute.
Right.
Like, you do your thing here, and I just,
So everything's an inconvenience.
And it's just like, and a lot of the time, especially in London, it's been a huge thing about patience as well. Like, really sitting back and thinking to myself, if I want to endeavor on this mission to kind of like love deeper and to seek clarity and to do all of this stuff, why am I reacting like this
Yeah.
in my day to day? And we're all human. We do make mistakes, but I like being able to catch myself in the moment and being like, why is this person saying, okay, first of all, let me just pause. Let me just stop doing this voice note for now, and I'll get back to it. And yeah, it doesn't take much out of my day. It takes 2-3 minutes of
No,
that
exactly.
moment. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, but that's having empathy.
yeah,
That is. It's just having a bit of patience, and then it's ultimately it's perspective. And
Yeah.
these things do always come up. You are going to get pissed off. You are going to get angry.
yeah.
But it's about
It's what you
taking
do
a
with that
moment.
anger and not sitting in it in a similar way. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, our missions are very aligned.
yeah.
Question: How do you how do you think we can help men be kinder
Men be kinder to who?
to men?
To men.
Well, no,
To anyone.
to anyone actually, because half of the world is made up of men, and
Yeah.
if we're looking at all the madness that goes on in life, usually committed by men.
Yeah.
So if we can help shift that, I think we can help shift the world.
Yeah.
How do we
So
do that? It's a big question.
yeah, it is. I'm just trying to think about how to say this. Do I talk about things I'm working on, or do I? It's like,
Yeah, actually, because what you're going into
Yeah.
is going to be a very big part of that thing.
yeah. So if we're talking about the book,
Yeah.
yeah. So the book, yeah, because I'm writing Time to Talk: How Men Feel About Love, Belonging, Connection. It should be out next year. So
Congrats.
like, yeah. Well,
It will. It will.
It will be out next year. There was something that I was really thinking about, which spoke to how we interact with boys and and then it kind of made me start thinking about my own boyhood and what that meant for me becoming a kinder and gentler person and then growing into a gentleman. So you think about gentlemen, you think about all of this stuff, but are we even conditioned to be gentle boys? No.
Wow.
So are we then? So then, how do we become gentlemen? We don't become gentlemen because when you basically kill all the vulnerability from a boy, you literally shell them, take everything out of them, and leave them with anger because that's masculine. Leave them with determination. Leave them with things that basically allow them to destruct and kind of make them not want to be empathetic or not want to be vulnerable in the sense that they can come to somebody and say, oh, I'm feeling upset about X, Y, and Z, or oh, I'm feeling sad, I'm going to cry about X, Y, and Z, or do you know what I mean? Like, take that away from them, take that kind of agency from them, but leave all of that to women and to girls. Like, they can feel angry, they can feel upset, they can feel emotional, they can do all, they can feel all of those things because they're human emotions.
Right.
And boys and girls feel the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a boy falls over and cuts his leg as a child, he's probably going to cry. If a girl falls over and cuts her leg, probably going to cry. Like, there's going to be things. If they feel emotionally hurt, they're going to cry or be upset or be like, an emotion, and they're going to be emotional.
Yeah.
Essentially, is what I'm saying. But when boys are conditioned not to be that way, and then they grow older, and we expect them to be these gentlemen who are considerate and kind and X, Y, and Z. Where are you going to find that? How are you going to find a man that's kind? That's kind to somebody or kind to somebody else, or when adults in their life are telling them that they can't do X, Y, and Z, or they shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z, or it's shameful to do X, Y, and Z, or it's or like, you know what I mean. So you're kind of plastering them with all of these things is what it means to be a man. But at the same time, when they do become men, we are very querying of what they are doing to other men, and then the cycle repeats. It goes on to the boys that they have, as you know, and they raise them from fathers to sons, and how they raise them, how they interact with their partners, you know, male or female, or you know, however you identify, like in their romantic relations, that is how they interact with one another. In their platonic relations, that's how they interact with another, because that is the conditioning that they've been given. But what I'm seeing a lot of the time is that boys go through this process. Well, some boys go through this process of unlearning a lot of things, and some go through it later, much later, when a lot of damage has been caused. Some go through it earlier, and when they want to make a change, etc. But it's like you're undoing all of the expectation, you're undoing all of the hurt, you're undoing all of that kind of emotional expectancy on you,
and the shame
and stuff, you know. And I just feel like, so in order to answer your question, how do we become kinder, or how do men become kinder? Men become kinder by how they interact with their boys, because the boys will become men, and those are the men that will then have sons and daughters.
Yeah, you have to break the cycle.
And then they will then be kinder to their sons and daughters, and you know what I mean? And then they become fathers and mothers or whatever. So yeah,
amazing.
I think a very loose kind of way. That's how I think.
I'm
no psychologist, so you know. But at the same time, I think that is one of the keys to how we can then be better men, by really understanding how we interact with our boys, and how our boys interact with the world.
That is a very good answer. Very good.
Yeah.
So is your book then speaking to parents, or at what stage are you trying to, you know, expose this?
So
this information.
The book is a series of conversations that I've had along the way with various different people, about what it means to be a man, what masculinity means, the mental health question, the mental health aspect, but from the position of not necessarily medicine, because we've had a lot about the diagnosis.
Right.
We've had a lot of the statistics about what happens when, you know, for like a set percentage of men, you know, have experience depression and loneliness and etc. We've had that everywhere. The conversations I have tend to be around the vulnerability, tend to be around love, tend to be around those things. So it's a mixture of anecdotes and extended conversations that I've had with people, and pulling from pop culture as well some of the stories that connect them all together.
Right. Okay.
And like making sure that, you know, that there's a well-rounded perspective as to what that looks like, and kind of what we perceive when we say we look in the media, and what we perceive from particular stories, see in particular films or TV shows, or
that's very interesting.
You know what I mean? So we kind of look at that, and how we then explore what men think about those kind of things, and like yeah.
I love the way you're doing that, because that makes it really accessible.
Yeah.
For people, because as much as we know movies are fake and things like that, so much of the stories that are told in the experiences and the characters kind of seep into like the subconscious of men, and that then seeps into the expectancy as well. You know, it should be like that, because one, that might be the only example I've seen of a man in this kind of situation. So therefore I need to be like this guy or whatever. So I like the way you're making that accessible. I think that's going to be amazing.
So yes, that is the plan.
That's the plan. Yeah. So you're right at the start of this journey.
Yeah, right at the start of this journey. I've I like the idea of like documenting the writing process for it.
Please do.
So there might be Ryan's like, yes, do that. I like the idea of documenting it. So
Document your hurt and your pain.
so I'm in the process of figuring out how I'm going to do that and in what way I'm going to be able to. I'm going to do that. So and yeah, I'm excited. I just want to make sure that, like, with anything, with any project that you do, you want to make sure that you do a good job. And yeah, so hopefully we'll see it. Hopefully this time next year, I will be back here talking to you
About
about
the book.
the physical
Absolutely.
thing. So yeah, so
Absolutely. No, that's going to be really good. But how are you feeling in terms of what I'm trying to say? So, have you always wanted to write a book?
yeah, so I've always written and I've always wanted to write. One of my main reasons I went into journalism itself was because I wanted to get better at writing, and I figured if I write every day in my job, then it would make sense for what I want to do, like
Yeah.
for writing a book and putting that together. Um, and I did start off wanting to write fiction, but I think my years in journalism have kind of like primed me for nonfiction. And yeah, like I'm just excited to kind of see what comes of it.
How long have you wanted that? Like, how long has this been a dream of yours?
What, to write a book?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I've like even when I was little, I used to just like sit there and just pull together pages of things and just kind of like write these stories. And as long as I can remember, I've always been really invested in a book, and stories and storytelling and the way that these amazing authors have done it. And I always thought, okay, one day it might be possible that I could probably do it. And yeah, it's exciting. With these really exciting things. So, like, I'd say from a boy, like, from being really young and reading stories like Harry Potter and then writing, and then going into the fan fiction sites and trying to write like a chapter of my own kind of version of what I
Yeah.
wanted, or sitting there scribbling, making notes of kind of like stories and characters that I wanted to like bring to life
Yeah.
and stuff, So
And then starting a podcast
and
about books.
starting a podcast about books and having these conversations with my friends about the books that changed us and the books that kind of made us who we are, and then delving into like lifestyle books and books that that have lessons in them, from a lot of amazing and influential people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like stories have kind of made up a lot of who I am, and I think they make up a lot of everybody. Like everybody's got a story, everybody's got something to say, and yeah, and I think that's what just intrigues me the most about
That's
all the stuff I do,
incredible.
is just like the storytelling and stories, and kind of uncovering the amazing ones, and even the most unremarkable ones, because everybody's got something that they need to share.
Absolutely. Isn't it amazing how that's how your journey's been in terms of,
Very crazy.
yeah, like
Very
starting
crazy.
off with the love of books and then going into journalism. Like it's all kind of fed
Yeah.
back, but then going via the podcast
Yeah.
to then for that to be about books, then for it not to be about it,
Yeah.
time to talk, to then come back to a book about
Yeah.
that,
But even in
knowing what your mission is.
listen, even in time to talk, at the end of the show, I do the books that matter
Yeah, that's right.
segment. So like the people always kind of throw in their book suggestions and stuff, because I do think that at the core of a lot of these things, a lot of these ideas, people either have a movie that changed their life, that a song or an artist or music or something, and a book or something, or some
Yeah.
piece of art has changed it. And my vested interest is in books, so I'm always going to ask that question. But there's a movie there's always
It's
some
true.
movie that's moved people, and there's always a piece of music or an album that's moved somebody. So, art really does do wonders for a lot of people, and that's why I always think it's important to kind of hone in on those pieces of art, and then just expand and see what how people interpreted them.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, as humans, we're driven by stories, right? If you're working for a company or if you're working for yourself, you're driven by the story you're telling yourself or the story that's being told to you.
Absolutely,
Like you
yeah.
have to. That's how we. This is how we function, right? So whether it's a book, a song, or a movie, or something, a story that really resonates with you, that can really change your life. But you said something really pertinent there about books that matter. What books matter to you at the moment?
Oh, okay. So, what books matter to me at the moment? The books that matter to me are the ones that center on the truth, on what the truth is, to the author or to the situation that they're writing
Okay.
about.
Yeah.
So I just finished 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma,
Yeah.
and
Did you read it or did you listen to it?
I listened to it.
Yeah.
I listened
That's
to
what I
it.
do.
Yeah, I listened to it because it helped me when I did get up at when I do get up at those times to so while I'm doing other things, I can actually have it on and then continuously be present for what I'm consuming.
Yes.
And I've always seen audiobooks as reading as reading myself because like if you don't, then I'm thinking it alienates a lot of people who don't have access to physical books
Yeah.
who can't necessarily what I mean like what about
So
there's a whole lot of people that can't physically get to a book or physically read.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
the audiobooks are amazing tools for consuming information, especially if the topics are quite dense as well. Yeah. But yeah, I was using the audiobook.
Yeah. I find them so powerful.
Yeah.
From yeah, I mean, I spoke about this on my latest vlog, just
Yeah.
about discovering about dyspraxia and
Yeah.
dyslexia and ADHD and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But if I do sit down to read a book, I can sit down and read a physical book if I'm in transit. So I have to be doing something. Like my body has to be doing something else to focus. But if I sit down at home and start reading a book,
As in you take the time to read.
yeah,
Like you sit down like this and
yeah,
you
no,
can't
it's
do
just,
that.
no, no. I could do the action of doing it, but my mind's not there.
Yeah.
So audiobooks have been amazing for that. But thinking about it, before we could read a book, books were read to us.
Yeah.
So we're actually geared to listen to stories. So I know there's a stigma about audiobooks aren't real books. They need to be. You need to have the physical, but we're geared to hear stories. So there's something about it that kind of gets into you, and you can do other things as well.
Yeah.
It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's usually like good for the commute. It's good for just when you're doing, for me, when I'm doing monotonous tasks.
Yeah, yes.
So
Washing up.
washing up, ironing. I hate ironing. Um, cooking to an extent. I love cooking, but it's just but I like having something in the background because
Yeah.
obviously it's company keeping as well. Like it's just
True.
whack it onto speakers and then you're just listening to either a podcast or an audiobook and it's calm.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, and even then, even to help sleep as well. Sometimes, like it's just nice to just kind of like whack the book on. You're like, okay, cool. Just gonna have that on for 10 minutes, and then just kind of like put myself into some downtime and just like listen to this content. But yeah, I love doing all I think everyone's like, oh, what do you prefer? Do you prefer like physical reading, audiobooks, Kindle, whatever? I'm like, I like all of them, man. I've even come to the point where I'm reading the physical book or the Kindle, but with the audiobook playing as well. So I'm reading as I go.
Interesting.
And I feel like there's I like doing these random brain experiments. So I sometimes put it on a high speed and try and read along with it just to see if my reading speed
Interesting.
increases over
Okay.
time. And if I'm still retaining the information,
Yeah.
because
Has it worked?
I'm retaining the information. I don't know about the speed, but I'm
Right.
retaining the information as fast as it's going.
Maybe
But,
something to
I
do
don't
with
know, it's
actually
really
like
strange.
looking at something, like it's like a cross reference.
Yeah.
Because I found where any podcast I listen to, if I re-listen to it, it takes me back to where I first heard it. It's incredible, and it's just like because my eyes have recorded whatever I'm seeing at the time, and I've listened to something. It's like it triggers off a memory. Funny enough.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something we can like look into.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's a sensory thing. Like,
Yeah.
I like to remember where I heard a particular thing, and I'm like, oh, I was on the way to X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
and I was thinking this, and then this came up, and then that's kind of like, it helps with the memory and where you've been, and kind of transporting yourself right there. Man, audio is like fantastic tool, man. Fantastic tool, yeah.
Fantastic tool.
That's
So with that, I mean, obviously you're a podcaster. You have to make an audiobook, right? You got the voice for it.
Yeah, there'll be an audio component.
Yeah.
So that'd be amazing. That will be amazing to do. Oh God! I mean, I've done like
So I'm giving you more tasks.
Ryan's just kind
More
of like giving me
overwhelm.
no, because I did I contributed an essay to Safe on Black Men Reclaiming Space, edited by Derek Owusu.
Okay.
So one of the guys that was on Mercy Lit with us as well, and he, got a group of like black male writers together, British male writers, to kind of document the male experience in Britain, and we had to do the audio for it, and like sitting there and just reading out my essay. Really weird, but I really enjoyed it
Oh, good.
because usually you sit there and you're like, oh, this is what you like. Because it's done considerably after the book's been put together.
Right.
It's like sitting back there with the text in front of you. You're like, oh my god, did I write this? What?
Mm.
And I'm reading it out again, and you've got to animate it in a way that's
Right.
different, because now it becomes an exercise in performance. You have to perform the piece that's there now. So yeah,
I
interesting.
do love that process because it's the same in music. So you're tied to something, and you're so within it. You know every single crevice of this creation that you're making, and then it goes out, and it's almost like a freeing, like that's out now, and when you come back to it, you can. Like, with music, I'm like, that's the first time I hear it. How other people would have heard it, So it's similar to your essay. You're like, oh wow, did I write this? Because it's just like you've freed yourself from that because it's been
Yeah.
some time
Yeah.
away from it, and it's now part of the ether. It's part of culture, and you contribute to that. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Wanted to
Yeah.
ask just some quick fire
Okay.
questions. What three things are you challenged with right now, and what three things are helping
Okay. What three things am I challenged with,
Yeah.
and what three things are helping them?
with those challenges?
The three things I'm challenged with at the moment are trusting the process. The second thing I'm challenged with is self-confidence, and the third thing would be self-belief. So how am I dealing with that?
Yeah.
How am I dealing?
What things are helping
Yeah,
with that?
what things are helping me with trusting the process are the people I have around me. So people like you who are continuously encouraging, my friends and everybody else who are continuously encouraging me to say, all right, like keep going. Like it's like none of this is forever. Like it's not. These things are temporary, or whenever you go through a rough or like a rut or something.
Yes.
Like helping remind me that that there's more to come, and there's more things that will come, and stuff. Self-confidence is the journaling. Helps me get through that, because I can then reflect on other parts of the journal and
Yeah.
and go back and see, oh, I wrote that then. This is something I've been here before. How did I get out of that?
Right.
Like, what am I going to do in order to build myself up and be the person that I want to be, be the person that I know I can be, and and self-belief. Like pray, I pray every morning,
I love that.
because a lot of stuff is just not in my control. It's just really not in my control. I sit down and I think to myself, like, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to kind of like fulfill yourself, and from inwards outwards, right? And if that inward is not strong enough, everything else will crumble around you, because it's the core foundation to you. It's how you operate and how you move in the world. So when when people say no to you with regards to opportunity, or perceived opportunity, or when people don't give you responses or answers that you want or whatnot, you have to believe that it's not necessarily about you.
Yes.
It could be a whole multitude of things that are happening.
And it
in the
usually
world.
is.
So therefore, you've got to believe in what you're doing. You got to believe in who you are. You got to believe in the way you operate in the world, And those three work together. The
They
trust,
do. That's what I was going to say.
the
Yeah.
trust in the process,
Yeah.
the self-confidence, the self-belief. They work together because they then like help me kind of like operate in the way that I want to operate. You know,
Absolutely.
help me do what I have to do. And so yeah, I simultaneously struggle with them, but I know what I need to do in order for me to help
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. That's so powerful. That's so powerful, and I love that you have found different like mechanisms to help with that, and they are all intrinsically linked. And what that triggered for me is a memory of having lots of interviews with my production partner in music, and we were always asked, "Oh, who are your inspirations?" And there was one time where he kind of just sat back and he actually said, "No, we are our inspiration," because it was at a point where you look back and you're like, "No, actually, I've done a lot. I've done a lot. If you go back and check it, I've done a lot, and actually, I
Yeah.
can look back at my own journey and be inspired by that."
Mm-hmm.
So when you were saying about trust the process, self-confidence and self-belief, that's all, from what I'm hearing and from what I know as well. You can trust not even just trust your own journey, but be inspired by
Yeah.
by you and what you've done
Yeah.
so far, and how you've coped, not coped, but how you've made it to where you are.
Absolutely, and you know what? And it's just so difficult sometimes, because you never actually see how far you've come until people tell you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you could say that to me, and I'd be like, okay, cool. But it's not until I sit back and reflect and be like, actually, in 2000 and X, Y, and Z, that it was like that. In 1990 something, I was did this. Like, look at where I am now, or you know what I mean? And and I'm really trying to do more by taking stock of what I've achieved,
Yeah.
what I failed at, and learning through those processes. And I know that humans are complex, so it might be next week that I'm just like, I haven't done anything, that's great, whatever, and you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. But that just has to be a part of my story, and that's just a part of the truth that I'm moving with. There's just some days where I'm going to be like, this was like a crap day. This is something that like I'm not good at any of this, and there's going to be blockages, especially in the creating process, where you're like, everything I'm creating is nonsense. I just don't want to do it. Like it's long, but again, it's the trust of the process. It's having the self belief. It's having the self confidence to come back and say, right, I believe I can do X, Y, and Z now. And sometimes you have to take a step back from all of it. And when I get into those spaces, I just take a step back and probably go to sleep or figure out or just distract myself with something
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise I'm just gonna
Definitely.
get caught up in the project and get caught up in
Doing too
entangling
much.
myself in all of this
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and burning myself out. And I just figured like, no, like I probably will go to my friends and complain about what X, Y, and Z is happening. They'll probably tell me to shut up and sort myself out. I'll probably go to bed vexed and wake up the next morning like, all right, cool, it's a new day. It's a new
Absolutely.
thing, so
But it's amazing what power is utilized when you do commit to just being present with that. So things aren't always great, and we do try to, as humans, just try to shy away from these things where it doesn't feel so great. So it's like, no, I'm not really going to deal with that. I'm not going to address it. But you're committed to your truth, and by being in that emotion, as shit as it feels sometimes, there's lessons there, there's jewels there, there's gems there, and you do have to kind of swim around in it to find them. And it does help. It's like usually, you have breakdowns and you have breakthroughs, and but you can't have one without the other, kind of thing. And it's all useful if you are committed to being authentic and being in your truth. So I just find that so powerful.
yeah, you have to.
Find that so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Well done to you, man. Well done to you. So I lost the train of thought I was going to say for the next question, but what does the next year look like for you then? In terms of, do you know what to expect with this with writing the book?
Um, I don't know. I think for me, the stuff that I've kind of put down for my kind of like my vision or whatever, um, I think understanding that you can kind of like have all these plans for the year and like
Yeah.
God will literally say, "Ha,
They say that, innit? Life will laugh at your plans.
what do you mean? What do you mean you're doing that? Come this way," and sort of thing. But
So true.
no, it's more. I just try to just. I have the overall idea so that 2020, my big thing was health and about my health and like so each week has to have a component that focuses on my health, whether that means the gym, whether that means time to rest, whether that means making sure that I'm eating well or whatnot, and social health, like making sure that I'm speaking to my like friends and making sure that I'm connecting with my family as often as I can, because I've in previous years it's been about the work. The work has been the center of the thing, and while the work is important, you can't do the work if your body and your mind aren't functioning right. you know,
Correct.
and if you're not looking after yourself, the work can't be created.
Life inspires,
So
man.
yeah, so that's kind of like what my year looks like. But from each week to week, I've got to make sure that there's a structure there that allows for that
I
in the week,
love that.
because otherwise it's just a thing. It's just a big grand thing that for the year everybody sits down and says, 2020 I'm going to do this, and they
Yeah.
run out and they do that. Then they burn out by March, and
That's
then
right,
it becomes
yeah.
a thing. Then it becomes, well, I can't wholeheartedly sit here and say that I wanted health to be my overarching theme, and then I'm burning out in March before spring comes.
No, exactly.
So
Because they're going for the
that's not
achievement
healthy.
rather than the commitment.
Exactly.
I love
And
what you
yeah,
said there.
and it's
Yeah.
a long term thing. Like these are long term things, and it's just kind of just like small little habits, day by day, kind of like build up the process for like a long term foundation of these habits. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like what you're saying, those commitments would sound counterintuitive to someone who's highly ambitious. But the more you do these things, you realize that by being counterintuitive, by, if you are getting stressed out or going to sleep, by going to see a friend, by doing something that isn't the thing, actually helps the thing.
yeah,
It's so weird, but it does.
yeah,
And those commitments that you've had, that you stated for this year, I think that's the right way of looking at it. These are new habits that I'm going to add this year, and
yeah,
because of that, all these things will happen. And you control the controllables,
yeah.
and you can only control your habits, right?
I'm the kind of guy, I never get anything right on the first go.
Same.
Never, ever
Yeah.
in the history of me.
Have you got your driver's license?
I do. But
How many
I
times?
got that right on the first go.
Oh, is it? It took me 5.
But also when I got the car,
Yeah.
which was like 3 years later, the car had numerous bumps and scrapes.
Yeah.
Because that being said, you getting this right on the first go doesn't mean that you're a good driver. You have to practice all that. So on the first few times of actually getting into the car scrape up, like the hubcaps lean up and like cracked and all this stuff. Had to change that, fix tire, all that stuff. Because yes, I had the license, but did I have the experience? I had
Right.
nothing there. Like, so
Interesting.
yeah, of all things, I did get that the first time, and that's a story for another time. I'll tell you off. But like getting that license,
Mad thing.
yeah. But anyway, like I never do. But aside from that, getting things right on the first time, like making sure that I have a consistent gym routine. I tried to just like overextend myself last year, the year before, and because those are what I thought was what it was supposed to be.
Right.
But also listening to my body to say, this week, take it easy, or you can still do the exercise, but just be mindful of what kind of exercises you're doing. For me, I'm like, as long as I'm moving, as long as I'm getting myself into that kind of headspace, and slowly building. I like, none of this needs to be rushed. None of this needs for me to be this way by the end of the year, because it's unrealistic.
It's unrealistic.
And nor is it sustainable. So my thing is, I want to, like exercise extends life. So, I want to be able to make it a way of life. So I want to be able to just do it bit by bit and continue doing it bit by bit. And then bit by bit becomes another layer,
It's all
another layer,
habits.
another layer, and it becomes a habit.
It's all habits.
So,
Yeah, man. It's all your inputs.
Yeah. That's my overarching theme. It's just
I
like
love that.
the little steps to it.
It's funny that that's kind of like a writing term as well, like an
Well,
overarching
the
theme. But
overarching theme, yeah.
it's kind of been the theme here as well. Is whether it's exercise or writing or just the way you're looking at your life, it's about remembering why you're doing it. You know, just with regards to what you're saying about listening to your bodies. So I committed to doing 365 days of this yoga.
You inspired me. I wrote on my notebook yoga 365. I ain't doing no yoga 365. I don't know what I was doing.
But
with
with that, I haven't done it every day. Like the last 2 weeks, I haven't done it at all because I was getting so good at it compared to how I started. I started to overdo it, so I ended up injuring my back. So now I've had to listen to my body and be like, just chill.
Body always wins.
Body
every time.
Body always wins.
The mind may tell you one thing, but who is in control?
Absolutely, exactly. So the mind then says, "Well, I committed to 365 days."
Ego.
But what did I want to do initially? I wanted to bring this habit in. I brought the habit in. Now I listen to my body, and just keep it going. When I'm better, because I could just risk doing further damage, and it's not worth it for what to post up on my Instagram. What's that for?
No.
Do you know what I mean? So that's definitely what I'm getting from this conversation. I hope other people would have got that too. It's about really know why you're doing it, and obviously going into your new chapter of your life. I'm not doing it on purpose.
He's just full of puns.
I'm not doing it on purpose. I do say that a lot.
New chapter. What are we going to say? We're going to turn the page.
As you're turning the page on your new chapter in life.
Open book. Come on, get them all out. Get them all out, Ryan. Get them all out.
It is important to know, what's going to bring you back.
Yeah.
What's going to ground you, and because it is going to be tough. You're going to have the ups and downs, and what your mission is. So that's amazing. That's really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. And I wish you all the best over the next however long it's going to be.
Yeah.
But also no pressure with that as well, because you know what the mission is.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here and taking up your space and your time.
Listen, it's time well spent.
Yeah, man.
Time well spent, and
absolutely.
I'm sure this ain't going to be the last time.
Oh, absolutely not.
We've both got lots of ideas of how we want to, extend this space, your space, my space, myspace.com. I'm not doing it on purpose. But yeah, there's going to be more for sure. Absolutely. We're more powerful together than we are separate. So
amazing.
All good, man. Where can people follow you on Instagram?
On Instagram,
your podcast.
So podcast is Time to Talk with Alex Rees. That's on every available podcast platform that you could think of, unless you live on the moon. I don't know where you. I don't know how you get a podcast up there. But on Instagram, I'm at Alex Reeds.
And it's READ.
READS as in
Reeds.
Twitter, it's at TT Talk Pod. And you keep up with the podcast there and stuff. And and that's pretty much where you'll find me.
And your website?
Website is alexreeds.co.uk. Thank you.
Cool. For all of the inbound
for everything.
messages you're gonna get.
For everything. Everything's there. Like I've got notes to self on there.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few things that's going on there. So if you want to go to the website, that's where everything is to connect you to other places. But
perfect.
Yeah. alexreeds.co.uk.
Wicked, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, man.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, dog.